I upload daily NBA content on this channel, so if that is something that interests you, then subscribe. Also drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second. It makes a massive difference. Also, real quick, a few things. There is a new podcast out, and also I do want to announce that tomorrow there's going to be a 2K My GM video on this channel. It's only going to be 1 episode, and then the rest of them are going to be over on my gaming channel. So I'm going to link the gaming channel top of the description and pinned comment and in the card above. So go subscribe to that channel if that is content that you'd be interested in. Again, episode 1 is going to be on this channel, but the rest will be on that one. I don't want to kill my normal videos by doing that. I'm literally staring at 2K21 on my PS5 on my TV right there, so let's just get into this video so that I can go do that. So obviously there was a lot of shit that came out about the Houston Rockets yesterday that started with Russell Westbrook demanding a trade. Once this happened, there was kind of a domino effect of just every player, current and former, of the Houston Rockets came out and had a lot of shit to talk. Austin Rivers had issues with the way James Harden treated him. Daniel House didn't like the amount of touches he was getting. PJ Tucker felt insulted by the lack of contract extension offers that they were giving him. Trevor Ariza said that there was something that happened internally with the Rockets where they were kind of just dicks to him, and then when he asked for an apology when he came to them a second time, they refused to give it. So that's really questionable from an organization standpoint. But then there's also the fact that with Russell Westbrook demanding a trade and all of this stuff coming out, it's looking very plausible that this team is going to have to blow it up. It's not looking good for Houston right now. So first, let's talk about the Russell Westbrook thing. So it's going to be hard to trade him, unfortunately, because he's a player that B-Souls has made this point before. Not good enough to be a number 1 on a true contending team, but really not built to be a number 2 or a number 3. His game is very reliant upon him dribbling the ball a lot, and if you're not allowing him to do this, you're limiting him because he just does not have off-ball movement in his blood, so he just doesn't do it. So Russell Westbrook is kind of useless when he doesn't have the ball, and for almost every team in the league, they have somebody that they'd rather have the ball than Russell Westbrook. Or not, maybe not almost every, but a good majority of them. And because of that, the amount of teams that are actually willing to trade for this guy is fairly limited in scope. There's the New York Knicks who are interested. Maybe the Orlando Magic would be interested. Unfortunately, the Chicago Bulls are rumored to be interested. I swear to God, if the Bulls trade for Russell Westbrook, I'm just going to upload a 10-minute video of me crying because the irony would be palpable. Because with the amount of shit that I have talked about Russell Westbrook, for him to then join the Bulls would just, it'd be funny to you guys, but I would be so sad. I'd be so incredibly sad if the Bulls traded for Russell Westbrook, especially when you could just trade for Chris Paul. But the Bulls are a team rumored for him. The Charlotte Hornets are a team rumored for him, which I guess makes sense because the Hornets are kind of a team that's always been content just staying above water. The Detroit Pistons, the Clippers and Lakers are also kind of rumored, but I don't see how either of those happen, especially the Lakers, because the Lakers don't really have the contracts to throw in that direction. The Clippers do, but I just would not recommend adding Russell Westbrook to the mix to that team. They already have enough issues with inconsistency and bad shot selection and being overly confident, and I don't think you add Russell Westbrook to fix that. I think that causes more of a problem. So Russell Westbrook's not the solution there. Basically, the thing is, with every other team in the league, why would you trade for Russell Westbrook if you can trade for Chris Paul? Yeah, Chris Paul is older, but he proved to be a culture changer in a positive direction rather than a negative one, and he has 1 less year on his contract while also just being a better player than Russell Westbrook. So why would you trade for Russ when you can trade for Chris Paul? Now, obviously, not every team in the league is going to be able to trade for Chris Paul because there's only one Chris Paul. So one team is going to get Chris Paul, and then Russell Westbrook's kind of the backup plan for every other team in the league. But if the Bulls trade for Chris Paul, I'll kill myself. If he's traded somewhere else, it'd be interesting. I want to see RJ Barrett kind of be built around in New York. I don't really think that RJ Barrett is the best player on a championship team by any means down the line, but I do believe he can be a very good all-star level player, and I'd like to see a team really put a focus on him And getting Russell Westbrook very much diverts from that, because Russell Westbrook will obviously take a lot of possessions away from RJ Barrett, and there's going to be a huge conflict with the shooting, because RJ Barrett is a shooter. He had a bad shooting season in his rookie year, but there's reason to believe he can be okay. But Russell Westbrook is statistically the worst three-point shooter of all time when considering volume. So trading Russ is not going to be easy, and really from the position of Houston, I want to talk about what trading Westbrook would actually mean for them, because there's a lot of things it can mean for the team that actually trades for him, but in terms of what the Rockets are actually going to get back, it's going to be very interesting, because you're not going to get back a star-level player. That's not happening, unless you did Blake Griffin for Russell Westbrook, and Blake Griffin was healthy. That would be a way to do it, but that's pretty much it. And you're not going to get any other assets outside of Blake Griffin from the Pistons. So you're not going to be getting anything amazing for Russell Westbrook. You could get a good handful of role players, like maybe 3 or 4 guys who are good rotation pieces. And that's like a best case scenario, honestly. Unless Blake Griffin just comes back and he plays like he did 2 years ago. That's a best case scenario, I guess. But in terms of trading just for role players, the best case is that you turn into the 2016 Rockets. Yes, the 2016 Rockets, who were just a bunch of good role players around James Harden. That's the best case here. And that team didn't really go much of anywhere, if I remember correctly. I'm pretty sure they lost in the first round of the Spurs. Was that 2016? I don't remember. This is the problem with unscripted videos. But James Harden on his own with just a bunch of good role players, it's not a bad team by any means, but it's not a championship team. And even though I don't like Russell Westbrook's fit with James Harden, honestly, star power is important. And Russell Westbrook and James Harden and the role players that they do have is probably better than James Harden and then a bunch of other role players. So you're not going to improve by trading Russell Westbrook. And then James Harden has 2 years left on his contract. He's getting older. The writing is kind of on the wall here that James Harden is going to leave. And with Mike D'Antoni leaving and Daryl Morey leaving, also Daryl Morey, going to talk about him in a second, unless I forget. These guys leaving makes the writing pretty clear on the wall, because James Harden, his career was heavily influenced by both of those guys. The fact that James Harden added the Sixers to his teams of interest is no coincidence. He wants to go play under Daryl Morey again as his GM. But also with all these role players that have been complaining, so with Daniel House, I don't know what his issue is really. He wanted more shots, but Daniel House is a 3-and-D guy. Sometimes he shoots the ball too much as it is. So even though there are complaints coming from these players, and it is important that there is turmoil within the Rockets, not all of it is to blame on the Rockets themselves. Daniel House, you're kind of tripping on that one. I don't know why you think you should shoot the ball 12 times a game, because you're just supposed to shoot spot-up threes and then hit layups and dunks on the fast break. PJ Tucker not wanting an extension, I understand his perspective, but unfortunately as a 35-year-old, I think that's his age, almost 36, I believe. You're not going to get a longer-term extension, and I think that's where the crux of his issue comes, because he's just not going to get a big contract at his age. He's a very valuable role player, but he can only go on for so much longer, and for that reason, I mean, it makes sense for the Rockets not to give him big money. As for the Trevor Ariza thing, don't know about that. As for the Austin Rivers thing, I don't know. James Harden's kind of a dick, but I don't know that was necessarily something new. And also players taunting even their own teammates. The extent of that report, I didn't look into it deeply. It didn't seem like a huge deal to me. But yeah, but the point is, regardless of the validity of these complaints, the fact that there are this many, regardless, either is a reflection of the Rockets organization, or it is a reflection of the players that are on this team. And it's for that reason that the Houston Rockets are a fucking mess. And Daryl Morey, as I said, I talk about him, I'm not seeing anyone criticize him at all right now, because all of these stories are things that happened while Daryl Morey was leading the team, leading the franchise as the general manager. So why is the Houston Rockets organization, just the general idea of the organization, getting criticism when pretty much all of this was orchestrated by Daryl Morey? I do not know. I feel like people saw Daryl Morey go to the Sixers and just pretended like he wasn't the Rockets general manager 2 months ago. So none of these reports are from things that happened recently, other than the Russell Westbrook trade request, obviously. So yeah, Daryl Morey, a little bit of criticism should be going his way that I'm not seeing, but the writing is on the wall with James Harden being traded from the Houston Rockets. I've talked about the Rockets a bunch this year. I was up on them, then down on them, and now I'm at the point where this just looks like a disaster of a franchise. And they're probably, I mean, it's James Harden had a report saying that he was locked in for next season and he doesn't want to leave. But I have to imagine after 1 year with him being the only star player again, he might change his mind on that. It depends the extent to which he actually cares about winning. He had a report come out with different teams that he was interested in going to if he was traded. And those were good teams for the most part. I'm pretty sure they were all good teams, except for the Sixers are kind of but they would be good with him there. So I guess it's clear that he does care about winning to some extent, if that's the thing. He wasn't just like, go trade me to the Charlotte Hornets and I can average 58 points per game. But he's probably going to want out at least by the end of 2021. I feel pretty confident saying that. So this next offseason, James Harden, I'm predicting he's going to be traded, and he might even be traded before that if the Rockets really just decide that they're going all in on the rebuild. It really depends on where their organization is planning on heading. We don't know what their new front office is like. Daryl Morey is obviously no longer there, and whoever is replacing him might not be as aggressive as Daryl Morey was, because Daryl Morey is one of the most aggressive general managers in the league. But if they play it conservatively, I think it could bite them in the ass, and I think if they also play it too aggressively, it could bite them in the ass. So the Houston Rockets are just kind of a disaster, and yeah. Again, go subscribe to that channel that I talked about with the 2K series coming out. I also have a Hawk series over there that I didn't finish. So if you want to get an idea of what you can expect, you can go watch some of those, I guess. But yeah, that's going to be linked in the description. I have a Patreon where you can go support me with and get some extra content in exchange. But yeah, that's the end of this video. Please be sure to like, subscribe for more NBA content like this, and keep the outro music.